Hi, this is Mark Kemper with EMS. In this video, we're going to do an in-depth review of the new Creaform EVO Elite 3D scanner. All right, so let's get started and go over a quick overview of some of the new features, and then we'll go into much more detail on some of those and other things. Now, if you're interested in a demo on this 3D scanner, you can contact us for an either in-person or virtual demo if you want to learn more about this, and you can call EMS at 877-845-2700, or you can shoot us an email at info@ems3d.com. But to get started, the first thing you're going to notice is this new LCD screen here on the back of the scanner. It's the most obvious thing when you look at the scanner. And the advantage of this is now you can do just about everything on the back screen right here. So if you're out in the shop floor and you're crawling around and your computer's far away, you'd have to go back, walk over, look at it, do stuff. Now you can do literally everything, not only on the back of the screen or the back of the scanner, but you can see as you're scanning, you see the part. You can stop, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. You can look for areas you might have missed. You can change pretty much all the settings on the scanner, add additional scans, whatever you want to do right here on the screen. Now, we've already been using this in the real world on some projects, and it's been awesome. I mean, it saves us so much time of going back and forth, especially when you're crawling around, getting into an area, trying to do something. It's all right here on the screen. Pretty much, we do everything here, and then when we're done, we go back over the computer and just do a final check, make sure we have everything, and we're done. So this is truly a productivity saver right here, this ability to do everything on the back of the screen. Now, another new feature is this has more laser lines than the previous generations. We'll go into that in more detail. So basically, it's faster. It can scan faster than before. It's got higher accuracy. We'll go into detail on that than before. It's got a built-in camera, and that allows us to do documentation while we're scanning and some really cool augmented reality, which we'll show here in a little bit. And then it has a laser pointer. We'll show that as well, which is pretty neat what you can do with that. And then finally, it's got a new portability kit, which allows you to go completely untethered without having to be connected to the computer. It gives you onboard power and Wi-Fi capability. So if you're really trying to get into some tight areas of something or be completely untethered, that's going to be something you might be interested in. So we'll go into more detail now on some of these features and more that I just talked about. All right, one thing I want to point out if you're not familiar with Creaform is who is Creaform? Well, they invented this market back in the mid-2000s. The handheld 3D scanning market, they invented it, and they've really dominated ever since. They've come out with incredible technology through the years. So, there are some competitors that have come along these days, but you really need to look at everything. You got to look at accuracy. You got to look at data quality that you're getting from the scanner, the service, the support, the build quality, everything that goes into this technology, and it's the reason Creaform is the leader and the dominant player in this market because of all those things. And also, if you work with EMS, you're getting us. We've been doing this for over 2 decades. We're completely focused on 3D scanning, reverse engineering, and metrology. That level of service and support. If your scanner breaks or it has to go in for calibration, where does it go? Creaform is in North America, so you know where you're sending your scanner. You also know your data is safe and there's integrity there. Knowing it's a North American company, if you do work in the aerospace business or DoD, defense work, anything like that, you have to be very careful with the scanner you're buying. Where is the software hosted? Where does the scanner have to go to be repaired? All those things become important. Also, accuracy. There's a lot of people throwing around accuracy numbers, and we did a whole video on this. I'll put a link below. And these numbers just aren't believable, or they really don't tell you how they came up with those accuracy numbers. So just because somebody publishes accuracy numbers, don't believe them. Look at how they did them. Look at the results. Look at that. And again, we go in that video. This is important stuff when you get into metrology. So Creaform has been a leader, continue to be the leader. EMS is here to support you and service you with any of the Creaform products. So that's just a little bit more about Creaform. Okay, so let's get started, and we're going to talk about the speed of the scanner. So now it has 42 laser lines versus the old generation had 30. But I also want to talk about my setup here first. So I've got a part here on this rotary table. This is a productivity kit, something we offer. I'll put a link in the description below where you can take a look at this. It's a rotary table plus some other things you can get with it. Really handy for scanning, especially bigger parts where you can just rotate it around. So I've got targets on my part. I've got a few targets with the spheres around it. And then this is new for the new EVO. It's a scale bar. So no longer does it come with a plate, it comes with this bar. The advantage of this is you can just throw the bar in your field of view when you're setting up. We're going to pre-scan our targets, and we're going to also calibrate with that bar. You'll see when we get going here. But there's some advantages to this, and we're also, Creaform is putting more emphasis on pre-scanning the targets. So as we chase microns, as I like to call it, to get a good accuracy, a good volumetric accuracy, you really want to pre-scan those targets. Now, if you're not chasing the best accuracy or the tightest accuracy, technically you don't have to do this. But if you're really trying to tighten it up and get down to that level of accuracy that you want, this becomes more important. Okay. So I'll show you as we get into this. So you just throw the scale bar here, and I'm going to tell it to start by pre-scanning the targets. Okay. So I'm moving around, and you're going to see some new things on the display. Also on the right hand of the computer screen, it actually shows the view that you see from the scanner, so you can see that. So what looks completely different now, if you're used to previous generations of Creaform, is you see these little kind of pie shapes around the targets, and then you see the scale bar has some lines. And what that's doing is trying to help you get good positions on those targets. So meaning the more positions it picks up as you move around, the more accurate things are going to be. Now you see the target bar, those 3 lines turn green. So that's telling us we have good positions taken all around that target bar. And we're trying to do the same thing with the targets. Now with the targets, you're not going to necessarily get green on every one, but you'll see they're red, then they turn yellow, and then eventually they disappear and you just see a little green dot. So what those little pie shapes are telling you is what angle you need to hit that from. And when I mean, hit it from, you're basically just capturing it from different angles. So this is how you really tighten up your volumetric accuracy, by pre-scanning all of these. Because what we're going to do when we stop scanning is we're going to optimize that target map, okay? And what that's going to do is just give us the best accuracy. So I'm going to say, hey, that's good enough. I'm going to hit stop on this. And again, you can see my little screen there. And then the one thing, if you did want to go in, let me bring this up here over in the software. If you wanted to optimize if you wanted to kick out, let's say, for example, some of these maybe, you see some are yellow, some are red. That's basically saying, yeah, that target's not real good. You didn't get enough measurements on it. And maybe it's a target in an area that's it's just not readily accessible. You can basically kick those out and say, just don't use them when I optimize my, my mesh, okay? Or sorry, my target. So I can do optimize right here. I would only have to go back to the computer if I really wanted to kick some of those targets out. So it's optimizing it right now. Let's close these windows once that's done. And then we're ready to scan. And we can even take the scale bar and just move it because we don't need it anymore. You can leave it there if you want, but once it's measured it's fine. So I can hit OK, and we're ready to go. And let me just close off these so you can just kind of see the screen better. Okay, so we're ready to scan. I've got a lanyard like on all the other scanners, which is really handy, especially if you're up high or somewhere. So now we're going to go ahead and just scan the surface. So I hit the scan surface, and this is where you're going to see those 42 laser lines and just how fast it is. So you can see as I move around just how quick. I'll just do a quick scan of this part, And again, you can see it on the screen. I can pretty much see everything I need to see. When you see yellow turning to blue, yellow means you don't have the desired resolution yet based on what you've set in the software as far as your density. And then once it turns that kind of teal color, it's saying, yep, that area has enough points to meet the resolution you would like, okay? So we just keep moving around, and again, at any time I can stop, I can rotate, I can zoom in and out, I can pan, you know, all the things you can do over here on the computer, I can do it right here. So if I see an area that, hey, I missed, I just hit start, I go back, I get that area. So it's really, really handy. The other thing you can do while you're scanning is you can go into that high-res mode. So for example, there's some text down here. You see it turning purple. So that's going to scan that area only at a higher res, and I'll turn that off now and go back to scanning. And what that means is, you know, if your part doesn't have too much shape to it, you know, you don't need super high density, right? Because that just makes your file huge. But let's say in this case, I've got some fine detail. I can just click that button, kind of paint that area purple, and it's going to be, there's a setting in the software of what factor you want that to be, and it's going to give you more density in that area. And that's kind of how the smart resolution works, but this kind of takes it to another level because it does it very specific in an area, okay? So if I'm done, I can hit stop scan, and then I can finalize. Now, before I start to finalize, let's go into the display here and look at our scan parameters. So all those parameters you can normally set, and you don't see these buttons on that little screen there, but normally all the things you set, like the resolution I mentioned, do I want to fill holes when I'm done? Do I want to smooth the data? Do I want to sharpen edges? Do I want to get rid of the floating data out in space? All those things are now accessible here. So if I want to make changes, I can do it right here. And then once I'm done, I can hit the finalize button, and it'll process that raw point cloud into a mesh, because that's a separate process, and this changed years ago. I can do that finalize and get the results based on those parameters I set. And the beauty of it is, as long as I save this session file, I could open this file up tomorrow and go, oh, I don't need such a tight resolution, or I don't want to fill in the holes, or I don't want to, you know, whatever, and I can reprocess. So it goes back to that raw file, reprocesses it, gives you a new polygon mesh, which gets saved as an STL file. So that's the beauty of the separating the finalize. You can scan real quick, stop, save it, and then play with it later with the optimal settings you want, okay? So that's a little bit on setting up pre-scanning targets, which again, you don't have to do, but highly recommended if you're trying to get really, really good accuracy, especially when you start getting into bigger parts. It really becomes important to lock down that volumetric target map and optimize it before you start scanning. You've got the scale bar, the 42 laser lines, and you've seen me interface a little bit here with the LCD screen, which is fantastic. It makes life so much easier. Like I said, especially if you're 10, 20, 30 feet away from your PC, crawling around inside a big casting or something, this really makes life nice. So that's a little bit on the speed and setting up the targets and scale bar.
Okay, so let's talk about accuracy for a minute, and I thought this would be a great time to show the entire product lineup now with the EVO series. So in the HandySCAN lineup, the original HandySCAN Black is no longer available, but the Black Elite and the Black Plus Elite are still available, and they're at a great new price. So if you want to get into metrology grade systems, this is a great place to start. Then we've got our EVO Elite and our EVO Elite Limited, and then our Max and Max Elite Limited. Those are for, Max Elite. Those are for basically larger objects. But looking here, you're going to see now the accuracy on the EVO is 20 microns and the Limited 15 microns. Now, one of the big differences is how we're coming up with this measurement. What standard are we using? What accredited standard? And we are now using for these scanners the ISO 10360 Part 8 standard. Now, I mentioned the accuracy video. The link below will explain this in more detail. But traditionally, 10360 Part 8 was not meant for handheld scanners. It's meant for CMMs that have like a laser head or some kind of structured light head attached to the CMM. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use it, but you need, or you should, explain what parts of it you're using and how and what your measurements are. And that's exactly what Creaform does. When you look at the calibration plate, you'll see. Now, traditionally, many scanner manufacturers use the VDI VDE standard, and that's still a good standard, but the 10360 Part 8 has some additional things in it. So we're doing some additional tests, measurement tests, and we're using that standard. So now we're using that standard, and in our calibration report, we call out exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what those results are. So it's a good standard that we've kind of adopted here for the new EVO series. So that's a little bit on that, on the whole product lineup here. And if you want this little table or this little sheet, just shoot us an email. Happy to send it to you. The other thing is the software that's included. So all of them come with the Creaform.os software. That's the standard software you see us using. But now some of them come with the Scan to CAD Pro, which is a reverse engineering software, and inspection, which is, of course, metrology software for inspection. So different models now include that software for no charge. So it's a really nice benefit of the Creaform product lineup. But that's a little bit on the accuracy.
All right, next let's show using the camera and kind of some augmented reality here a little bit with a feature called Auto Align. So if I come over here in the software and I pick Auto Align, I can select a CAD file, and let's get this open. And what this is really going to probably be most used for inspection. Let's say I've got to inspect 10 of these or 20 of them or 30 of them, and this is a really great way to optimize the scanning process. So what it's done is it's loaded the CAD file, because typically you're going to be scanning and then comparing that scan data to a CAD file. And what I'm going to do is I've loaded the CAD file, and then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just kind of look at it where it's positioned, and I'm going to click. And what that's going to do, let's back out here a little bit, that's basically giving it like the starting view that I'm going to be looking for. So it can kind of, it's just going to make it faster to align the CAD data to the scan data. You'll see here in a minute, and I'll hit OK. Okay. So now I go ahead and go to my scanning. So I'm going to go ahead here on the screen and start scanning. And you can see right away what it's done. It stopped there for a minute, but it basically aligned the CAD data to the scan data. Okay. So with just a little bit of scan data, and based on the view I started in, it was able to line that up. Now, why is that important? Well, one is I can see the CAD model as I'm scanning, and that's nice. But what it's going to do is you'll notice there's no scan data on the table at all, right? I didn't set up a clipping plane or anything else, which I'm going to show a new feature on that here in a minute. But you can see it's basically loading that CAD model, and there's a distance you set. And basically, if anything is beyond that distance of that CAD model, it just doesn't scan those areas. It basically removes it. So this is great if you're having to do inspection, because I don't have to, when I'm done scanning, I don't have to go and clean up and delete a bunch of data I don't want, which can confuse the inspection software, etc. Okay? So I just move around until I get it. So let's go ahead and stop. Okay, and I'll hit Stop Scan. And, again, on the screen, I can zoom in, zoom out, look at it, and then finalize, which I will go ahead and do. So it's telling me there's no scale bar, which for this example, I just didn't bother. But normally, you'd probably put the scale bar like we did earlier. But the idea here is it quickly lets you bring in CAD, align the CAD to the scan data, and then in this example, we trimmed off. And I'll come over here to the screen so you can see this a little better. But you can see there's no scan data beyond that part within a certain value that I set. But basically, in this case, I've got the part up off the table, so it's just eliminated everything. So basically, you don't have to go back and clean up your data later. If you've got CAD and you can reference it for scanning, and it doesn't have to be for inspection, but obviously that's usually the case. You've got a CAD file already. Reverse engineering, generally you don't. So this is a great new productivity tool for working with scan data and the CAD model for inspection. Okay, so another neat feature with this augmented reality is the ability to look at the inspection right on the part. So we've brought in the CAD model, we've scanned, we've aligned to that CAD model, we've automatically got rid of all the data around it as we scan, and now I can come in here to this Inspect Mesh button, And what that's going to do is that's going to open up the Creaform inspection software, which comes with this scanner, and it's going to apply an accuracy heat map. So basically you can set what's considered intolerance, which would be green, what's slightly out in one direction is red, and under, let's say, is blue or whatever, your basic color heat map. But what's cool is, so I get that on there, and again, the left is my screen I see here, and if I click this button, you can see I can move around the part and get this augmented reality of where, what that heat map looks like, right? So I can come in here and say, oh boy, those bosses may be out a little. So this is really cool, especially on a big part. You can kind of walk around and look at it and see where there may be some issues with the part. So again, another use of this camera and the augmented reality with the scanner. It's really nice. Okay, so next I want to show using the larger volume and then also taking some photos for documentation. So the large volume came out with the HandySCAN Black Plus, and it's been really nice. It really kind of opens up the file or the part size you can scan. So let's go ahead and get started. Now I've already pre-scanned my targets and my scale bar, and I'm going to tell it I'm going to scan. So you can see I'm farther back. It may be hard to tell here, but you can see on this bike frame I can be farther back, and I'm basically scanning a larger volume. And when you get something like this where the part is kind of spatially spread out, and there's a lot of kind of big voids where there's basically no targets, you can see it still scans really quick and really nice, okay? So at any point I can go along and scan. Let me get in here a little bit. And then I'm going to hit stop, and I'm going to hit this button on here called photo. And again, let me bring this up on the screen here, and we'll close that off, put that over there. So I can come over here and say photo, and then I can pick this area here, and I can say take photo. So maybe there's something there of concern, maybe there's a crack, maybe there's a feature there you weren't expecting, or whatever it may be. You can document that, and I'll come over here, let's say, and take something here, let's say take a photo, and there's a flash, there's a built-in flash. You can adjust what that looks like as you go, and then at any time I can go back and start scanning again. And those photos are going to be embedded right in the file, right in the scan file, which I'll show here in a minute, and then they're also basically saved on the computer, so you have record of them as far as where they were taken. And it just can be really nice to have. Of course, you can pull out your phone and take photos on your own, but the nice thing about this is you see exactly in the file, where they were taken, okay? So I'm just going to scan a little bit more of this, and then I'm going to hit stop scan, and we'll hit stop here, and we'll finalize. Okay, so over here on the computer, and obviously I didn't scan the whole thing, but you get the general idea. But now we have this new thing called photos in our tree here, and if I drop this down, you can see these different photos. And if I click on it, it shows me where the photo was taken. Okay, so you can kind of see where the camera was, the scanner was oriented, and what that photo looks like. And if you double click on it, you'll get the actual photo right here in this view, and then you can save them or upload them or do whatever you want with them. But it's really nice. So again, you can see the key thing is to see where maybe they were taken from by seeing kind of this animation here of the scanner itself, and then again the photos, you can just double click and there it is. So it's a really nice feature while you're scanning to be able to quickly just grab a picture of something, and again it's embedded right in the file. You can export them later. So that's another nice thing of having that built-in camera, and again using that wider mode with the scanner is nice when you start getting into bigger things. You can use that larger volume. Okay, sticking with the motorcycle frame here, let's remove the table or the background. Now, we can come right here in the scanner and say remove background. It'll find the flat, basically what it thinks that the table is, and remove it. But sometimes that's not always perfect. If you want to do something a little different, we can say create clipping plane, and then we're going to use this new laser pointer, and we just pick on the table, and I need at least 3 points to create a plane. And I'll come over here and pick one. And then it's automatically going to create that clipping plane for us. So now when we go back to scanning, it's just telling me I have to update the surface. And then we go back to scanning, you can see the table's completely, in this case the rotary table, is completely gone. So again, being able to just clean up your data right here on the fly is really, really nice to be able to do that. Because also, if I say stop and now I want to finalize, I'm not processing all that data that was on the table. That's now all gone, and whether I start and stop scan, we will get no more data underneath there, and that makes things like finalizing or any processing you're doing faster because you have less data that you have to deal with. And with these scanners and the amount of data they can collect nowadays, these files do get large. So having that ability to do that is really nice. And then you can also do more points and make a box. So you could do like 4 points and box in an area. That wouldn't work well with this, obviously, because of just how big it is. But so that's a nice thing. It's kind of like the clip cards that came out with the HandySCAN Max. You can essentially do the same thing, but now you're doing it with a laser pointer and just virtually picking those points. So it's pretty cool, nice little feature to have. Okay, so to wrap up the video on the new Creaform EVO scanner, we've got more laser lines, which makes it faster. We have higher accuracy to a new standard, ISO 10360 Part 8 standard. We've got the LCD screen, which lets us interface and do everything we want right here. We've got the upcoming portability kit that allow you to go completely untethered from the laptop and have power. Great for getting into remote areas or up high or different things. We've got the built-in camera for the augmented reality and documentation. We've got the laser pointer. And then we've got the Acu Plus kit, which we didn't show, but those are larger scale bars, kind of like the small bars, but for large objects to keep high accuracy over distance. That's really nice to have. If you're doing larger parts, that's available for this. And this became available on the previous gen, the Black Plus system. So that's everything. Now, if you want a in-person or virtual demo on this new system, you can call us at 877-845-2700, or you can send us an email at info@ems3d.com.